The speakers will give a short introduction. This is how it works. The speakers will give a short introduction about their particular country or region. First, we're going to hear from Catherine Mampé and Peter Geisels from Visit Flanders. Then we're going to hear from Ross Calladine, on my right, from Visit England. And then Ms. Teresa Ferreira, who's from Turismo de Portugal. And finally from Monica Oriol from the Catalonia Tourist Board. So we'll then have some questions and panel discussion at the end. I've prepared some questions for each of them, just to make sure that they're lively and ready. But you will also have questions from the audience, which can be totally unpredictable. But that's the way we like to have it here, to keep them on their toes. Okay, so I'll just introduce the first two speakers. Catherine Mampé, she has a background in social geography. She's Belgian, of course. She was at the University of Leuven, and she worked for the Institute for Social and Economic Geography at the university. But since 2001, she's been working at Visit Flanders, which is the tourist board of the Flemish region. She's worked as a policy advisor for social tourism and youth tourism, and later as head of 3 different departments. These are the Tourism for All department, the Department of Direct Investments, and since 2012 as head of the department that stimulates the accessible tourism in Flanders. And since 2015, this department, the Product Management Inclusive Tourism department, also has the task of making more family-friendly tourism in Flanders. So Peter's background, Peter Geisels next to me, he has a master's degree in communication science from the University of Leuven, and since 1999 he's been working in the field of accessible tourism, first for a disability organization, KVG, and later as coordinator of the Accessible Travel Info Point in Flanders and policy advisor for Visit Flanders. So with 2 such well-qualified people, I will now hand over to them to manage their presentation. It'll be about 8 minutes, I hope, and then we'll have all the presentations, and then we'll have the final summing up and panel discussion. Okay, Catherine, I think you're going to start.
Thank you, Ivor. Good afternoon, you all. Visit Flanders is turning the northern region of Belgium into an overall accessible holiday destination by 2018. That's our ambition. That's also the ambition of our minister. Well, it's a very ambitious operation, and it starts 15 years ago. So we like to take a look to the underlying strategy and the results for so far. And then to conclude, we like to see what the near future will bring and how all this fits in a European context.
So as Catherine already mentioned, we have taken some time to prepare, but now we are really working on specific touristic hotspots. The first, as you can see there on the map, in the very west corner of Flanders is where we are commemorating now the First World War. Now in 2014 and 2018 it's 100 years ago. This draws the world's attention to our area. Another highlight that is just next to it is especially important for the domestic market and for some neighboring countries, that's the coastal area. Well, for those 2 regions now we have made a roundup this year, while we are meanwhile preparing the next step, and that's the historic art cities like Bruges and Brussels and Antwerp and Ghent. This may take another year or 2 to complete, but gradually we are getting there. We are making the whole region come up to par.
Well, behind all of this, an accessibility action plan was developed in 2001, and it combines accessible infrastructure, training, and information as interacting fields that you have tackled at the same time. And rather than using self-assessment tools or user-generated content, Visit Flanders opted to work together with external accessibility bureaus, with specialists, because they are able to deliver more in-depth analysis from the situations on the field, and they are also able to give hands-on advice to improvements. And all the measured data we have, they are all published online. Training and awareness raising are at least as important than the accessibility of your bricks and stones. So in Flanders, desk staff or tour guides or other key role players, they can all book tailored sessions by trainers with disability. And of course, they get some basic information about accessibility, but the biggest part of such a day is concentrating on the direct encounters of with visitors with disabilities. We also have manuals and folders for the tourism sector for those awareness raising and to spread all the knowledge further. For everybody who is involved in this, it's very important that all the results of all those actions are easy to be found, because accessibility information has to be accessible. It's important that it is accurate, adequate. It's easy to be understand, easy to read, easy to find. Actually, it has to be all over the place, this information.
Now, Flanders also has a label, or two labels, I must say. While these are quite basic ways to communicate, especially when you compare them to the tools that we know today, where you can really personalize information. A label gives a good first impression of the level of accessibility that you can expect. It can be used both by experienced and less experienced users, both in digital form as in print. In 2008 was the start of this label. It was for us a way to narrow down the information that we got from quite extensive technical reports that we got from those external bureaus. And it allowed a first selection for people who were planning a holiday. We chose for two levels, and I must say they are specifically for accommodation, and since a few years also for visitor centers, tourism offices. The A label means, well, there's a basic accessibility, which means that you may need some help here and there. A plus is what we call comfortably accessible. Another asset of the label system is that it has a promotional value for the tourism sector. Well, the thing that you have to take care of then is that it must not be too easy to have. In general, for us now, only 20% of those who apply for a label will eventually have one. We also see that this label in this context works as an instigator of further evolution, of further improvement. Those who have a label will try to climb higher to the best label. Some will expand the number of accessible rooms or other facilities and try to make them meet the criteria. Between 2008, there has been some growth. That's about 250, a little bit more than 250 in those years now that have been labeled as accessible for everybody. That's just the accommodations that I'm showing here. Now, the current strategy to develop a destination for all builds further on that accommodation label and the experience that we had from there. Now the entire value chain comes in view, and the visitor's travel experience and their specific needs, whatever they may be, become a key factor. the destination development in Flanders happens in close cooperation with people from the regional, local, provincial and national authorities, and other parties, because we are very dependent. That's what's typical for tourism. You are always very dependent on all kind of other adjacent political fields and social working fields. Now, when we start investing, before we start investing in accessible premises, we first will make an analysis to identify what are the touristic assets. The results are communicated in a number of ways. I'm going to show you a screenshot of one of those. That's the app called Accessible, which includes information both about the coast area and the former battlefields area that I mentioned in the beginning. 2 minutes. Thank you. Now I'll say something about. So we have now 1 year of the work in the Flanders Fields area, and we see there that the number of visitors have doubled, and at the same time that the appreciation of that nobody felt overcrowded, even although it was more than 90% more visitors 1 year to another. We haven't researched it specifically, but we are convinced that accessibility here plays an important role.
Well, I think it's clear that accessible tourism is just tourism. It doesn't matter if you're dealing with a tourist from China, or a tourist from Germany, or a tourist with a disability. It are just all tourists with certain needs, and that's also the main idea. And it's inspired Visit Flanders in its internal and external collaborations and cooperations. For example, the admission of grants with Visit Flanders is always related to accessible standards. If you don't cope with these standards, you will have any grants from us. This policy is a very strong signal to our tourist stakeholders and also to the other political domains. And well, recent, and Ivor already mentioned it, we had a lot of changes in our organization and also a little change in our little department. We are not only focused now on accessible tourism, but also on a family-friendly tourism. So we are moving from an accessible approach to inclusive tourism, and that's a very important change. And that's because we also see that there is a change in mentality among our tourist partners, and that's why Visit Flanders will also continue in the same way.
Yes, I'll conclude with 2 small remarks to calm down a bit about everything. First, that is that, well, we still have a long way to go, especially if you are working with historical cities and heritage. You'll have to think about disclosure of the buildings or the conservation, what is the most important. And the other thing that I'd have to say, well, you see it on the map there, Flanders is only a very small region in a very big European context. And I think, and well, Flanders believes that we only can work this out in a European context where people who come to Europe will find a similar guideline and a similar way of, a similar approach of accessible tourism. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Peter and Katrien. Thank you. So we'll move straight on now. I don't know if the technology works all by itself from the back. Will you change the slides or do we do that? I'm not sure if we do. So.
It's Ross.
Yes, it's, I'll just introduce you, Ross. Would you like to change places? So
yes, we will.
We're going to hear from Visit England now, and Ross Calladine is going to take the floor. And Ross, is the manager in charge of accessibility, but also other things at Visit England. He studied tourism management at the Sheffield Hallam University, and he also had a placement in a hotel in Orlando, Florida during his study time in many different roles. Further to that, he worked in consulting in the UK on destination development. But for 7 years, he's been a quality development executive at Visit England, and his work on accessible tourism also includes managing the business advice hub to the small and medium-sized enterprises, and he manages also a European project on access for all. So, Ross, if you manage that,
I think so.
You're ready, please take it away.
Thanks, Ivor. Good afternoon. It's fantastic to be invited to speak at this conference. Thank you to ONSE and to ENAT. Just briefly to explain who Visit England are, we are the National Tourist Board for England, so we're responsible for developing the tourism economy in England, and we're supporting businesses to improve their quality and their development. And as part of that, we see accessibility, a very important part of that. And the statistics I'm going to show you on the next page really hit home as to how important accessible tourism is. So Visit England, we did a lot of research since 2009 to be able to quantify the volume and value of accessible tourism in England so that we can have a strong business case to go out to hotels, attractions and all other tourism businesses and say this isn't just a social imperative, it has a very strong business case. And what our statistics showed is that each year in England, disabled travellers and their travelling companions spend over £12 billion on tourism, which is quite staggering. And to break that down, the next slide tells us that around 20% of day visits include someone with a health condition or impairment, and around 14% of overnight trips by British people include someone with an impairment. So it's a very large market, and the next slide at the bottom here shows how strong the growth has been since 2009. In England, domestic tourism, that's British people having overnight trips, has been pretty flat really. It hasn't shown much growth, but this market's gone at 19%. And the value is quite staggering. This market has increased its expenditure 33%. And it's largely because of an ageing population in England and in Europe, with more older people taking trips, then their prevalence of impairments and disability tend to be higher. So you could argue that this is one of the last untapped tourism markets, and it's really living up to its expectations. As Ivor mentioned, we have been working since October last year on a European-funded project. It followed a successful pilot project which we ran in England in 2012 to 2014. And this grant is supporting 7 destinations throughout England to improve their accessibility. And we're working with 56 tourism businesses, a mix of hotels, self-catering businesses, visitor attractions, and some transport companies as well. And if the technology will allow, I'll just show you a brief 2.5-minute video. It works. Just thinking about it.
Yeah, I was thinking about it. Have we got the sound? Maybe not. I'm not sure.
Did they set it up? I hope so.
Uh-huh.
No. What's that say?
I think it's
Let me leave it.
it asks for C. C. Try
Oh,
C.
C.
Oh,
There's,
Here we go.
there, coming.
there it comes. I think we may not have sound.
The
on
Visit
this.
England Access for
Oh, there
All
he is.
project is an 18-month project co-funded by the European Commission to develop accessibility in 7 destinations around England.
It's important for tourism business to improve their accessibility accessibility because it's all about excellent customer service for everyone. If you can do it right for disabled people and their families, you can do it right for everybody.
The project works by having a destination lead in each of the 7 destinations, and they have identified and engaged up to 8 tourism businesses, and we are supporting those businesses with the help of Access Advisors to develop their accessibility.
My role entails working with a range of businesses in the city, being the main point of contact for them within the city and liaising back to Visit England on anything that needs to be liaised with. Also encouraging them to complete all the elements of the programme and just being there really at the end of the phone if they need some help or advice.
Well, I think what this project has given us is a really good opportunity to take a step back and take a fresh look at what we're doing, so that we're consolidating on all of those great achievements so far and just forcing us to go the extra mile.
The course looks at 4 different areas about accessible tourism and the market, about the law and the legalities, about the visitor experience, and also we have a really practical session in the afternoon.
The training is really good for me as well because it's improving my knowledge, and we'll be looking to cascade that benefit to all staff as we go by and incorporating it into our ongoing training methods.
At the end of the development process, we will have around 58 tourism businesses who will be offering great accessible experiences. We will then be having a national mainstream marketing campaign where we'll be promoting the 7 destinations and the businesses within to people with access needs.
Any destinations out there that haven't been through this kind of process, I would thoroughly recommend it. The bottom line for us as a destination and all the businesses involved is really wanting a share of the accessible market, which is worth more than £12 billion. We want a part of that.
So the project has consisted of 2 parts. The first was product development, taking all of those businesses through a process to improve their accessibility. And similar to Flanders, we looked at the 3 key areas: the facilities, the physical facilities, of course. Oh, pardon me.
We got another. Close it. Yeah.
Sorry about that. So, taking the businesses through a process to improve their accessibility, we had all of them audited by a professional access auditor, which gave them high priority and medium priority changes that they can make to improve their accessibility. We had 98 people, champions of accessibility from the businesses, attend a 1-day training course run by disabled trainers. 1,500 staff completed an online disability awareness program to make sure that they understand the needs of disabled travellers. And we had mystery shopping by disabled travellers, so they would go in, have a real experience, and then write up a questionnaire. And the information, very important, they all wrote an access statement detailing their accessibility. So at the moment, September, we're right in the middle of the marketing campaign, and that's the second part of the project. So it's about promoting those 7 destinations and those 56 businesses. And we've been doing that in partnership with a big newspaper in England called the Daily Express. And in their magazine that they bring out every Sunday, we have a supplement. We have 3 supplements. The first one was coastal and included 2 of our destinations. The second one, this one, which says history, hills and hearing loops, was countryside. And the one coming out this Sunday is city, includes our final 3 destinations, which are cities. We have 7 competitions, so there's prizes to stay at these businesses, visit these businesses. We've done around 10 radio interviews across England, and other newspapers have picked up on the campaign, the Telegraph and the Guardian. And we've had a social media campaign as well, using the Access for All tag. So just going to show you an example of one of our supplements that we've produced. These are also available as PDFs on the Visit England website. So Sun, Sea and Step-Free Access was our coastal guide. And although you can't read the copy here, it gives you a flavour as to the look and feel of these guides that we've produced. So it's very much about the tourism experience, but then with a little bit more extra information on the accessibility, which this audience are obviously looking for. We have a label as well in England for accommodation called the National Accessible Scheme, and all of the accommodation businesses were taken through the scheme and rated. So that's what these yellow logos are. So we're just coming to a conclusion, really, in the next few weeks. We'll be finishing our marketing campaign and we'll be concluding our Access for All project. And hopefully in the future we'll be able to support more destinations around England to improve their accessibility. We really do take a leading role in England on facilitating accessible tourism, and you can find out more looking at our websites and following us on Twitter. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much, Ross. Thank you. So it's great to see that the room is filling up even more. You can see when things are really important, there aren't seats for everybody. So we're going to move on quickly now to our next speaker. It's Teresa Ferreira from Turismo de Portugal. Teresa, if you could take the seat, thank you. She's the Director of Development and Innovation Department in Portugal at the National Tourist Board. She has a background in social psychology, like myself, and she's also responsible for the national program on accessible tourism. I should also add to her credit and her colleagues' credit, the Portuguese Tourist Board is voted for the second time in a row the world's best tourist board. That's in the World Travel and Tourism Awards. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
And I think, just as you've seen the previous two speakers, there's a lot going on also in Portugal. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this invitation. So I will try to share our work in this field of accessible tourism. It's not very much, but we are on the way. Just to give you some key figures about Portugal, we are a little country, but still an important touristic destination. And now we are in a good moment of tourism development. As a matter of fact, in 2014 was a very important year, one of the best years ever. We growth on tourists, on overnights, and on tourism receipts, and we are also okay in the international competitiveness. And also we have, and this is really important, the international recognition, and it's quite important to know and to see what the others talk about us, about the country and about some of our regions. And this also helps to promote and to position the country as a tourist destination. So we can ask how important is it for Portugal to become a destination accessible for all, and we all know that it's important because it distinguishes the offering, it opens new demand segments, and the numbers of the European Commission says that there is a big segment concerning people with special needs, so we're talking about business opportunities. But for us, it's also important because it fits in our value of a tourist destination. Our purpose, we say we have a nice weather, we have good beaches, sun, but most of all, in Portugal, tourists are well received. So hospitality and warm welcome is one of our best values, and accessible tourism fits right in this purpose. And so, since 2013, the National Tourism Strategy signalized these guidelines concerning accessible tourism. So we have to do what we have to do. So it's not very different from other countries and other situations. Create conditions to receive tourists with special needs, implement programs to develop accessible tourism destinations, and assure information about accessibility, which is also an important issue, information. And so we start working. Here are some methods which are not original also, but it's really important to establish institutional partnerships, and here we already seen that other countries do the same. Networking between private tourism agents, this is really important, and every session, every event we do, it's a little more networking that we provide, so networking between private tourism agents, it's really important. Produce technical tools to facilitate qualification for tourism players and spread best practices. So let us know that it's possible to do, that it's not too complicated to have interesting solutions for accessible tourism. I now will pass some good practices. It's not from Turismo de Portugal, just our tourism board. It's involved a lot of partners. So concerning hospitality industry, of course we have, like other countries, specific legislation on accessibility for all concerning public use facilities. We create a best practice guide for accessibility in the hotel sector. So it's a very simple digital guide with technical information for professionals in hotels. And there is also a quality standard, a Portuguese quality standard on accessibility in hotels, which doesn't have yet many hotels with this standard, but it's a process to go. Concerning active tourism, because it's also important to look on the active activities, the tourist activities that visitors can do. So we also produce a very simple guide, but inspiring, I hope, to help tourist companies, which normally are little companies, to help them have some of their services concerning people with special needs. So tourist companies that makes walks or golf or surfing, sailing. So there are a lot of activities that can be done with people with specific needs, with some family that has someone with specific needs. We also have an interesting program concerning beaches. It's a partnership between different public institutions, and it's a program to provide the bathing areas for universal use. And it has 10 years now, and this year we reached to 200 beaches with this award, which is also a sign for municipalities and for tourists, since the beach, the sea, it's a really important tourist product for Portugal. We also noticed that our cultural entities are also aware about accessibility, and they implement a training program for managers of cultural facilities in order to adapt this cultural offer to visitors, not just the infrastructure, but the services. And it was quite an interesting experience for cultural facilities. We also have an interesting experience. It's a training package, inclusive tourism, which is in the national qualifications framework. I mean, it's really recognized by this national framework, and there are training courses for professionals and for students concerning hospitality skills to receive people with special needs. So training is really something we have to do in a very important way. awareness and a lot of awareness that we have to do. So we have been doing different sessions along the country with different partners to spread the business opportunity, to provide networking, to share these technical tools, to share best practices, to put this subject on the map and on the mind of the business managers. And we also signed a framework agreement with ENAT. I think it's important to have this recognition on this help, this technical help with an international entity. Challenges for the future, and perhaps we can discuss this later. So there are a lot of things to do concerning awareness, training, and knowledge. We have to do more, and we have to diversify our audiences because, as we all know, tourism is such a complex value chain that a lot of people and segments have to be involved in. Perhaps it's important to have more international cooperation, and I think this initiative that Ivar took to bring different tourism borders to share their experience and to profound some subjects. It's really interesting to do in more to do more. Okay, sorry. Okay. Concerning destinations development, we think it's important to have a guide tool for DMOs. We are talking with ENAT concerning this. We think it's important to have something to guide the destination managers. And think about innovative projects. And I think this conference can inspire us. We have to have more different projects concerning consumer experiences, concerning smart destinations. So bring this technology and these new opportunities to this subject of tourism, accessible tourism. Information and communication. We have to have specific channels in our destination websites, but we have to work more concerning storytelling, using better testimonies, the best experiences of the customers to make this approach to the destinations. So it's something that we have to work on. Distribution and sales, of course, we have to have specific contacts with the distribution. We have to understand what specific prescribers do we have to reach concerning this segment, and monitoring. So this is an area that we are not working on. So collecting data, knowing this evolution of supply and demand, tourist satisfaction. So I think it's also an important issue to talk about and to share experiences between the tourism boards.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa. Thank you. Okay. I'm sure we're all actually getting quite filled up with the amount of information, but also Peter knows how to do this.
Yeah.
You know?
He's got the handle on it. Yeah. So I think we're getting quite filled up, but I hope you've still got room for some more information about what's happening in Spain, in Catalonia, where Monica Oriol will be telling us about their experience. Monica is as someone who's worked in just about every area of tourism, I think, in Catalonia. She's now working on responsible tourism as well as sustainable tourism, accessible tourism, and she's worked also on social and senior tourism, LGBT and luxury travel. And what this perhaps tells us is that among all our speakers, none of them started life talking about accessible tourism. They were all doing other things, and they're all mixing it. Peter's also involved in all kinds of policy decisions. So accessible tourism is part of what everybody should be doing. I think that's a message that comes out of this. Monica has also been working in the promotions department, and is now has also been promoting Catalonia as a tourist destination in general. Now she's going to tell us what they've done particularly on the accessibility area. Thank you, Monica.
Thank you. Bueno, ante todo, bienvenidos a todos. It's in Spanish. First, I would like to welcome you all. I would like to thank the organizers for having accepted the proposal of the Catalonian Agency on Tourism to attend this Congress. And I would also like to thank Ivor for having invited us to participate in this panel, the ENAT panel. I would like to explain the Accessible Tourism Program of the Catalan Agency on Tourism. And in order to do so, I am going to use a worldwide reference in accessibility issues so that he or she can do a brief introduction. Martin Shipley will deliver this introduction. Let's see if it works.
Hello and welcome to
This again. We start again?
Yeah, the upper one. Upper one. No.
Oh no.
Yeah.
This
On
one.
top. On top. Yeah. Okay.
But the noise?
No, it's here.
It's your computer.
Yeah. It's the. Wait. Yeah. That sounds already better. And now?
A ver, ¿todo el mundo preparado?
It's not? There.
Hello and welcome to Access to All Areas. I'm Martin Sibley and today I'm in sunny Catalonia. Catalonia is now a leading accessible tourist destination with 1,300 resources with facilities for disabled people, limited mobility or special needs. In recent years, Catalonia has worked hard to remove architectural and communication barriers to make the major tourist attractions accessible for all. More and more initiatives in Catalonia guarantee cultural tourism is accessible to all. People with sensory impairments have also been taken into account. In Catalonia's museums, as well as offering audio guides in several languages, there are now tactile models of much of Gaudi's work. Another unique attraction, easily reached by public transport, is La Casa Vila La Pedrera. It is now fully accessible for disabled people, and especially people with visual impairments. The accessibility runs naturally throughout its design. There's loads of tactile objects to really give that true experience of the materials and the architecture. If you're looking for some real adventure, Catalonia has many activities adapted for disabled people, like this. Whether you want to try skiing, sailing, diving, horse riding, cycling, hiking, canoeing, or even hot air ballooning, nobody here is excluded for reasons of accessibility. After a good flight, as long as you landed safely, it's time to crack open a bottle of bubbly. For those who love wine, there are several wineries in the Penedès area, like Jean Leon Cellar, which are totally accessible. Many beaches on the Catalan coast also have the equipment necessary for everyone to be able to enjoy the sea. Today, Catalonia has 25 fabulous destinations offering fully adapted activities and is working hard to be fully adapted in the near future, making it the perfect accessible tourist destination. See you next time on Access All Areas.
Okay.
Me alegro de que les guste, de verdad.
I'm glad you like it. Well, for the Catalonian Agency on Tourism, the Accessible Tourism Program and its promotion is one of their priorities. Indeed, back in the end of 2007, we decided that we had to have an active presence. So we designed a very ambitious study to analyze all the accessible tourism offer that we have in Catalonia. In 2008, we presented the accessible tourism guidelines, and with the material that we had gathered, we created a website. A website? Can we show it on the screen? Oh, thank you. Okay, a website where you can see the different accessibility devices and all the accessible tourism proposals that we have in place. The concept that we have about accessible tourism should encompass all the different types of disabilities or impairments, and we also consider that promotion should also include the whole value chain. It is our understanding that this is not just about proposing a guideline that encompasses the different accommodations or facilities of those accommodations. For us, it should go beyond. For us, what we shall do is to present a series of activities that a tourist could and should do in a destination. We're talking here about transport, about culture, nature, restoration. We're talking about accommodation. So it's the hospitality business and its whole value chain. This must make it possible for a person with or without a disability to enjoy a tourist destination or a tourist proposal. So, our focus in our accessible tourism program is not just a guide that enumerates accommodations, it's a guide of destinations, of tourism proposals. We started out with 19 destinations and now we include 25 destinations. Those destinations are destinations that offer to all people, people with or without a disability, but especially for people with a disability, those destinations offer an added value to this choice. So, in the promotion, in the early stages, we had to focus on this. So, in this promotion, we had to encompass everything that the normal, so to speak, tourism business offers. So, offers for families with tour operators at the national and international levels, also press trips at the national and international level, also workshops, meetings. We also organize congresses, seminars, programs, events for bloggers, and from the promotion standpoint again, also we focus on marketing for that product too. This comprehensive product. And here I wanted to show one of the collaboration agreements that we have with one of those tour operators. And specifically, this is this year's agreement. The Responsible Travel launched this guide, this accessible tourism guide. It's a UK tour operator that knocked on our door to actually include on their website some proposals to visit Catalonia. We are delighted. I'm sorry, but we cannot hear the speaker anymore. The interpreter apologizes, but we lost sound.
And where did you lose the sound? Then I repeat what I just missed, or?
Yeah, it's just... Hello? Can you hear us?
About the website, what I just said is that...
We're back, thank you. As we were saying, we apologize for the technical difficulties. She's going to respond to you in English.
With Responsible Travel, maybe you know, Responsible Travel is one of the tour operators specialized in responsible tourism, and they wanted to launch an accessible tourism guide. And the first thing that,
They actually decided that Catalonia could be a good destination to launch this first accessible tourism guide.
Gotcha.
That's it. Okay.
2 minutes now.
Yeah. Aparte de esto, pues
apart from promotion, as I mentioned, we also have to talk about commercialization and marketing to all the events that we attend to. We normally call the events that we organize workshops, either when they're organized by ourselves or by a third party. We normally call them workshops, and we always include accessible tourism proposals. And it is our understanding that also this awareness raising must take into account the different social levels, the different social agents. Catalonia has an agreement with the ONCE Foundation, and that is just an example of what I just mentioned. But we also want to take this a bit further than the boundaries, beyond the boundaries of the tourism sector, and not just at the state level, but also we want to escalate it up to the European level. So we want to be members of the European network on accessible tourism. We're also part of the Next Tour network, the OITS, and we also participate in different programs at the European level, in the European arena. And all these factors have led us to receive certain awards, like the Calimara awards, and also in 2013 we got in the World Media Festival a recognition for our initiatives in terms of audiovisual production. Also we received Premios Solidarios from ONCE Foundation. Also, I'm sorry, but I'm mentioning all the different awards, and it's quite a few of them. And we hope that this year, and we will get again, the recognition from the World Travel Market. And in the past, we have been awarded the Accessible Tourism Award. So all those recognitions and awards really encourage us to continue working on creating tourism for all and promoting it, because that's our mission. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So, yes, please stay where you are. We started a little bit late. We've had a few technical glitches, but we will have time for some questions now, and we may eat into the coffee break eventually. I had some questions prepared, but I'd like to just throw it open to the audience, because I had actually sent the questions to the speakers, and they've answered most of the points already. So if there's someone with a microphone, and if we can take any questions, please raise your hand. Any questions or comments? Anyone? Yeah, thank you, here. Do we have a microphone, please? I think we need a microphone, unless you can come to the front and use this one. There you go.
Yeah.
All right.
¿Por dónde?
Here at the front, to my right. Please give your name and tell us where you come from. Thank you.
Gracias.
Yes.
Mi nombre es Andrea.
My name is Andrea. I'm originally from Chile. I lived in New Zealand for a while, but I've been based in Germany for a couple of years already. I looked into tourist accessibility or accessibility in tourism, and I noticed that in Europe you have many good ideas. Flanders was a very good example in terms of integrity, actually, and the comprehensiveness of your accessibility approach. Also, in terms of services, that can be very interesting if you lack the adequate technology. But Europe, and including the UK, is still not very well represented. What I mean is that there's a very few of us who are working on accessibility in tourism. And I think we don't really do a lot of outreach. I mean, this is one of the few forums where we see this topic. I mean, at the different social spheres, this is not frequently mentioned. And we also know that no matter how large the infrastructures are, human skills and human services delivered by humans are key. So now I would like to refer to the Catalonian speaker. How do you do it to connect to society? How do you do your outreach activities? How do you raise awareness so that society gets involved in this, so that people get trained, they get the skills to become part of a society that takes on disabled people?
Yeah, that part I understood.
You're doing a good job. You're doing a great job. But let Monica take this specific point. Yeah.
Nosotros, de hecho,
we had an advantage when we started because in the Catalonian tourism sector, we had already been working on this for many years. We included accessibility for many years, and it was very interesting. When we carried out the analysis, we included about 6,000 resources, and we realized that many people were already working along these lines. After the analysis, we actually determined that about 600 companies were already offering this type of services and had already worked on it. They had implemented solutions
de mercado.
to attract this market segment. She's making comments without a microphone, sorry. In 2007, the Catalonian Tourism Agency started to do the study. When they had subsidies offered from all the different government entities, not just for tourism, they were already given subsidies to improve accessibility at many levels, but the General Directorate on Tourism didn't do a specific campaign on this to motivate people. In terms of promotion, we just started off with that study that I mentioned in my presentation.
Yeah. So I think we're observing that there are differences in the way that each country has reached this level that it's at. But I certainly also agree with the questioner that there are a great many more national tourist boards in Europe that haven't even taken the first step. I noticed we did 2 years ago, we did a study of all the websites of the national tourist boards in Europe and found that only 50% of them were even talking about access for people with disabilities. There was no mention on the websites of half the tourist boards in Europe about disabled access. So we could take one more question, and I think then we'll have to close. So, Peter, yes. Peter.
Just because now I hadn't go to the word diffusion, so okay. Just to tell you what Flanders is doing on this point is that we are having our general visitflanders.com website, which has a chapter on accessibility, but that interferes all the time with the general information. So for us, it is important to see that you don't have to call yourself disabled before you find the accessibility information. So it's always there, and you always can click through to find the information you are needing.
All right. Yes, I think that's an important point, the realization that once you've gathered this information, you have to push it into all the channels and all the areas of your information process so that it becomes it's just part of what you do. It's no longer a specialist subject for special people, but it's for all the customers. Now, there was one more question here, the lady at the front. Sí.
Bueno, en realidad me parece que
in my opinion, well, rather than asking a question, I would like to make a remark, and it's just food for thought for the attendees. I think tourism works on grounds that have to do with public policies on accessibility. So when public policies are a state matter, when they're in the state's agenda, it is at that point that we can capitalize tourism and we can indeed highlight the value in our tourist boards, and in that point we can give enough relevance to our packages and to our offering. But I think states really need to consider this and put them put this in their agenda. So I wanted to know also, how actively do you participate in tourism and policy making and the different social entities and the beneficiaries and so on in that scope?
Well, I think it's a good observation what the lady was saying, Peter, and anyone else who doesn't. Ah, you had the headset, right? Okay, is that the state is obviously one of the main actors here. Does anyone from the panel want to come back on that?
I just want to make
Teresa,
an
please.
observation, because it's important, the public policy, but concerning tourism, we are talking about an economic activity. So here we have to involve the businesses, and that's the real challenge, because we can have a very interesting public policy, all the associations involved, but the question is, how can we bring business to this thing and tell them that there is really a business opportunity to differentiate their services concerning accessible tourism. That's a big point. And I for the first question, I thought that you were asking why we have so different European experiences. Each of one has its own approach, its own standard. How the tourists that visit Europe and make their holidays in Europe and in different tourist destinations in Europe can understand the different labels and the different standards and the different approaches of accessible tourism. I don't have the answer. I don't even know if the question is, let's make a common standard or some requirements, common requirements. I don't know if it is the answer, but in the tourist point of view, perhaps it's quite confusing to have so different approaches concerning this subject.
Yeah. Okay, just to that last point, I would say that perhaps it's part of INAT's role as a network of all the players in Europe to try to make sure that information is present, at least, so that people can find the information they want. I'd like to close this session now and say thank you very much to all our panel. I think that you will agree with me, we've had some excellent presentations and a lot of food for thought, as we say. I think you may have seen the rest, now you've seen the best. And I'd like you to think a lot about what you've heard and go back to where you come from and see if you can emulate to do the same. Now, we will have one little housekeeping note from Alicia, who wants to tell you something about the arrangements after this.
Se oye, ¿verdad? Sí, es un breve mensaje.
Just a brief message from the organizers. It has to do with the translation headsets. Please, if you picked up headsets from the registration desk, from the general registration desk, you need to know that they don't work in the workshops. So you need to go back to that registration table, get your national identity card to pick up a headset here, okay? So you can get, as you know, headsets here in this room, headsets that will work. Please give us your national identity card so that we can give you some headsets. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Good enough. Well done.
I think we have a lot of love with each other, really, because